In this video, I'm going to be ranking every Wonder Flower in Super Mario Wonder from worst to best. As a quick side note, anyone who's played this game before will probably notice that I chose to exclude the final test, which is, despite its name, the penultimate level in the game. I decided to do this because at the end of the day, it's just a rehash of previous Wonder Flowers, and even if I were to include it, I feel like we all know it'd just be number one, which wouldn't be much of a surprise. So with that being said, on to the video. At number 73, the worst Wonder Flower in Super Mario Wonder, Pipe Rock Plateau Palace. In some oxymoronic way, this one is weird because it's not weird. Nothing really changes about the level with this one. I mean, I guess the background turns red and some of the pipes shift around a little bit. That's about it. I don't know if they were just out of ideas or if they just didn't feel like trying, but this is definitely the worst Wonder Flower. And number 72 is Flight of the Bloomps. This one's extremely straightforward. You jump on a bloomp, as they're called, as it moves horizontally, and then you jump on another bloomp as it moves vertically, and that's it. Very uninspired, especially when you consider how many good Wonder Flowers you'll see on this list that take much more advantage of these blooms. At number 71 is Here Come the Hoppos. This Wonder Flower spawns an orgy of Hoppos on top of you that you must traverse through to reach the big boy Hoppo, on top of which is the Wonder Seed. There's nothing thrilling or inventive about this one, and it's incredibly brief. Pretty forgettable overall. Just like the previous one with the blooms, future Wonder Flowers utilize the Hoppos in a much more enticing fashion. And number 70 is Countdown to Drop Down. This one's just a very generic skydiving sequence. There's nothing that really differentiates this one from the crowd. It's not the only one where you skydive, and it's not the only one to give you an abundance of stars, nor does it even attempt to expand on any of its concepts. Instantly forgettable. And number 69 is the Anglefish Trial. Ready, Aim, Fly. This flower is kind of the conceptual inverse of the previous one, in that you're climbing upwards instead of falling downwards. Yet it's just as uninventive and forgettable. It only gets a slightly higher ranking because it at least utilizes a new enemy. And number 68 is a three-way tie between all three battleship levels. These Wonder Flowers feature a Bowser ship that appears in the background of the level. Or maybe it's Bowser himself, I'm not quite sure. But either way, he shoots targeted missiles at you. They're telegraphed in a very obvious manner to an extent where your dog could probably dodge them if you gave it the controller. Though I guess it's kind of neat that that allows you to trick Bowser into destroying parts of the level for you. What kills this flower for me, unfortunately, is the fact that it's reused for all three of these battleship levels, with the only differentiating factor being the layout of the level. For a game bursting with so much creativity and inspiration, it's kind of disappointing to see such little effort be spared for these battleship Wonder Flowers. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that this is not the only case where a concept is reused more than once. But for the other Wonder Flowers that reuse concepts, they're usually concepts worth reusing, such as unique transformations. Concepts such as those deserve to be reused. The mid-ass mechanic featured in these battleship levels? Not so much. So with that, I'm grouping them all up together and ranking them here. And number 67 is Secrets of Shova Mansion. In this one, you basically just outshove the Shovas and shove your way all the way through to the seed at the end of this hall. I mean, this one's alright, but I find it disappointing based on what happens at the start of it. You see some Shovas messing around in the foreground, and that made me think this Wonder Flower was gonna play around with perspectives more. Like maybe have a Shova in the foreground block your view of something it's pushing. That would have been weird and interesting, but that doesn't end up happening, unfortunately, so it ranks here. At number 66, we have The Final Trial, Zip Track Dash. This is the last of three Wonder Flowers that turn you into a Hoppycat, and it's unfortunately the weakest. Putting the Hoppycat on these treadmills, or whatever the fuck zip tracks they're called, makes for some NBA-ass hops, which is pretty cool, but it feels very short-lived, and you're not actually doing much aside from pressing jump a few times. At number 65 is Scram Skedaddlers. Upon touching this flower, the time shifts to night and stars begin falling from the sky. And that's it. Very basic, which is par for course considering it's only the third Wonder Flower in the game. But this line of reasoning kinda falls apart since I would consider the two levels that precede it chronologically to be more creative and interesting. Though I do think it's kinda funny that it culminates in this chase as this motherfucker tries to steal the Wonder Seed. At number 64, we have Welcome to the Flower Kingdom, the first ever Wonder Flower. The pipes come to life for a short period of time. Some of them shoot upwards and downwards, others slink around like inchworms. There's not too much to chew on here, but you can't expect to see anything too crazy from the first ever Wonder Flowers, so it gets a little leeway. At number 63, we have Wavy Ride Through the Magma Tube. In this one, you're stranded on these 3 suspended platforms, along with this flower that won't shut the fuck up.
You need to shut the fuck up!
And the challenge comes with this statue thing in the background. It's constantly shooting these big ol' fireballs that will fuck you up if you don't switch platforms fast enough. It's somewhat reminiscent of some of the Bowser fights back in New Super Mario Bros. It's kind of brain dead easy. I feel like you have to try to get hit for it to happen, honestly. And on top of that, I just feel like I'm left wanting more out of this somehow. I don't know. And number 62 is Operation Poplin Rescue. This is one of 4 flowers featuring this slime transformation, which I'll talk about more later on because this is honestly the worst one featuring it in my opinion. I sort of question why they even bothered with its inclusion here because, I mean, what are you doing? You're touching a few green flowers to make some stones in your path disappear. Wow, feels like they did it just to do it rather than there being any kind of inspiration behind it, so yeah. It ranks here. At number 61, we have Tailey's Toxic Pond. And this one is basically high school all over again because you got a pop quiz. You gotta answer 3 randomly generated questions correctly by pulling on the corresponding Tailey, and then you get the seed. And some of these questions are brain dead easy, while others are kind of weird. Like there's one question asking about how many Goombas you've stomped thus far. That just makes me feel like I'm being stalked. Ranking this one is kind of hard because unlike virtually all the other ones, this is not a platforming challenge, so it can't really be directly compared. So I'll just say that I appreciate the change of pace with this one. I think it definitely deserves its place in this game. But with that being said, it goes towards the bottom. At number 60, we have Piranha Plants on Parade. And this is a cute little Wonder Flower. A bunch of piranha plants start singing a little song and they dance around the level. Similar to the first ever flower, this one is really just trying to set the zany tone that the rest of the game follows. And it does a great job in doing that. It's silly and endearing, but I have to rank it relatively low considering there are future musical Wonder Flowers that just do it better. At number 59 is Ninja Jump Party. This one's weird because it's not a normal level. I think it's supposed to be like a bonus level, but what this flower does is initiate this little musical sequence where you're encouraged to jump along with the rhythm of the music in the background. It's kind of cute, but there aren't really any stakes here, like there isn't a penalty or anything if you mess a jump up, which does make it feel a little lame. I guess that makes sense if this really is meant to just be a bonus level, but regardless, it ranks here. At number 58, we have Pole Block Passage. And this one, you got these pole blocks that you've been seeing throughout the level, which you just punch like a normal block, and it unveils a pole that stretches outwards, allowing you to platform with it. Now, once you get this Wonder Flower, the poles don't just go in a straight line, but rather go fucking crazy and start stretching all over the place, and you have to climb them to reach these flower coins. It's pretty wacky, but it's also kind of basic relative to other Wonder Flowers. At number 57, we have Angry Spikes and Sinking Pipes. In this one, you gotta time your jumps to avoid these spike balls as they're tossed at you from either direction simultaneously. Gameplay wise, it's brain dead easy. You literally just press jump. What saves it is the presentation. There's a whole musical number that's centered around the pace of your jumping. As this stupid ass flower puts it.
It's kinda catchy.
At number 56, we have Jump Jump Jump, another musically oriented flower. This time though, you're tasked with, believe it or not based on the name, jumping on these platforms as they appear and disappear alongside the tempo of the beat playing in the background. And as the beat gets faster and faster, so do the platforms. I think this one is fun and kind of satisfying, but there's another flower with this exact same concept but executed in a more compelling fashion, which nullifies this one to some extent. But I mean, it's still fun. At number 55, we have Swamp Pipe Crawl. This one brings back the inchworm pipes from the first level, except this time they're integrated in a more dynamic way. The environment is more hazardous and thus there's greater incentive to actually interact with them as you platform. Plus, I don't know what it is about these inchworm pipes, but I find them kind of strangely endearing. Maybe their little marketing campaign with these things prior to the game's release worked successfully on me. I don't know, I just like seeing them being used here. At number 54, we have Hot Hot Hot. When you get this one, it starts raining inside the volcano you're in, which is kind of wacky, like you wouldn't typically expect that in this kind of setting. Along with that, you got these bubbles of water that come falling down, and you basically just gotta swim through these bubbles to reach the 5 coins laying around. It's kind of wacky given how it contrasts with the setting, but I feel like they didn't go far enough with this concept, unfortunately. Like, it would have been cool if they went all in and had like a tsunami or some shit. At number 53, we have the Desert Mystery. Once you get this Wonder Flower, a whole ass pyramid emerges from the sand, prompting a goose chase as this seed appears and flees from you down into the depths of this pyramid. And as you venture in, there's traps and shit. It's cool conceptually, but it probably could have been higher if the execution was better. It just feels like it's missing something, if that makes sense. At number 52, we have Bulrush Coming Through. In this one, you hop on a stampede of bulrushes as they storm through the sky and bulldoze the level below you. Seeing them destroy the flagpole is pretty funny. This one has more spectacle than the Wonder Flowers that preceded it, which is pretty cool, but there's another Wonder Flower that improves on what this flower does, which kinda automatically knocks it down a peg. You'll notice that's a trend here actually. Some Wonder Flowers have repeat concepts, which makes it easy to directly compare them. And if one is clearly better than the other or others, then that's gonna influence how I rank them. At number 51, we have Downpour Uproar. So here we have another skydiving Wonder Flower, except this time you're skydiving upwards as you get swooped up into this thunderstorm, which differentiates it a little bit. You got obstacles to avoid, of course, like Koopa Troopas who are stuck up there with you, and lightning that strikes every so often. But like a lot of skydiving levels similar to this one though, they start throwing stars your way like halfway through, and I don't understand why they do this because it just kind of removes all the challenge. But regardless, it's alright. One of the better flowers of this variety. At number 50, we have Rolling Ball Hall. Upon getting this flower, the screen starts tilting in different directions. And as it does, big Indiana Jones looking ass balls start rolling towards you, forcing you to run in the opposite direction. And it goes back and forth a bit before culminating in this final sprint with this massive ball right on your ass. It's not the most memorable, I suppose, and I can't quite articulate why that is. I guess it just gets outshined by other Wonder Flowers in the game, but it's intense enough to be fun. At number 49, we have Up Shroom Down Shroom. This one is like the Singing Piranha Plants flower, but it's Halloween now. Ooh, spooky. I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday actually, so naturally I enjoy the whole aesthetic of this Wonder Flower, with the pumpkins bouncing up and down and the neon lights glowing in the dark. I suppose there's not a whole lot to chew on beyond the aesthetic, but it's serviceable. At number 48, we have Bloops of the Desert Skies. And this one you turn into fetish content? No, I'm pretty sure it's a reference to the pea balloon in Super Mario World, but basically you just gotta float your way up to the top, you know, avoid some obstacles, reach the seed. Not much left to say, honestly. It's pretty good. At number 47, we have Color Switch Dungeon. This one spawns in Blackface Mario, who will follow you around like a ghost, mirroring your past movements. Sound familiar? Probably because this concept has been thoroughly explored in previous Mario games. Nonetheless, it's returned for a reason, and that's because it's a fun concept. I like how you're forced to think about every little movement you make in a completely different light, because you're not just positioning yourself, you're positioning where your enemy is going to be. Like I said, it's not treading new ground, but it's still fun. At number 46, we have Cosmic Hoppos. Upon touching this Wonder Flower, this one Hoppo becomes all sparkly, and once you jump on it, it launches you all the way up into the stratosphere. Literally, you go to outer fucking space, where you just kind of float around, dodging Hoppos and spikes. Yeah, it's not the most challenging Wonder Flower out there, but it easily makes up for that with its spectacle. I mean, it's outer fucking space, dude. At number 45, we have Bluebird Roost. And this one, a bunch of birds start blowing this big swarm of colorful bubbles, and you bounce on them up and all the way up to the seed. Nothing very sophisticated, but it's cute. There's something low-key satisfying about popping one bubble after the other. It's short and sweet, doesn't overstay its welcome. I like it. Not the best, but I like it. At number 44 is Pokey Stampede Pass. In this one, a blizzard appears and begins filling in the level with snow. What I find interesting about this is how it enables you to use the snow to platform as it forms, or how you can kind of edit the level yourself by breaking the snow. It makes the level feel more dynamic and transformative, which I dig. I do wish they extracted more out of this concept though, because I feel like there may be a lot of potential here that they're only just scratching the surface of. At number 43, we have Beware of the Rifts. Blackface Mario makes his return here, and this time he's chasing you throughout this vertical maze of sorts as you search for 5 flower coins. Handling him is pretty easy since there's these POW blocks everywhere that knock him down for a good bit. Nonetheless, his presence provides this flower with much needed urgency. I also like how you can use the POW blocks strategically to dislodge some flower coins. At number 42, we have the Sugar Star Trial, Across the Night Sky. Getting most of these flowers is pretty straightforward. You usually don't even have to really think about it. But here, it's kind of a mini challenge in and of itself because you have to weave between these sugar stars. Or so I thought. Turns out you can just disable them with the Fire Flower, which I only found out on my very last run. But once you get it, you get a star power up and stars begin to rain from the sky. And from there, it's a rush to get the seed at the end of the course. In spite of its relative simplicity, I enjoy how fast-paced and colorful it is. At number 41, we have Leapin' Smackerel. Throughout the level featuring this flower, you have these new enemies called Smackerels, and all they really do is leap out of the water in an attempt to hit you. They're comparable to the fireballs of past, except, well, they're in water instead of lava, obviously, but they also move around before they lunge out at you. And so what this Wonder Flower does is spawn a giant fucking Smackerel, and when it jumps out at you, it destroys parts of the level. So you have to actually take advantage of that fact to have it carved out a path for you to reach these 5 flower coins, which I think is pretty neato. At number 40, we have the Hoppycat Trial, Hop Hop and Away. This is the level where the previously mentioned Hoppycats are first introduced, and their whole gimmick is that they jump at the same time as you, and you can take advantage of that to have them do your bidding. Well, this flower takes these Hoppycats and makes them big. So big, in fact, that they start destroying the level when they jump, thus paving new paths for you. Wait a minute, I'm getting deja vu. Yeah, it's conceptually identical to the previous one. Just take a new enemy and make it big. This one gets ranked a little higher though, because the level design is a little more intricate. It's not as flat as the previous level. At number 39 is Rolla Koopa Derby. In this one, you must climb to the top of this tree via these weird dazzling slopes that you can only see while you're standing on them. And as you climb, you got these Koopa Troopas roller skating along them. I give this one points for its uniqueness. In fact, I believe this is the only Wonder Flower that utilizes this new roller skating Koopa Troopa enemy, which is kind of surprising. It's pretty neat. At number 38, we have Pull, Turn, Burn. This one feels a little busy almost. First of all, you become immune to lava, which is the primary effect of this flower. So you can just go right ahead and swim right through that shit. And that makes it easier to get to these 5 coins that you need. But these coins are in these rooms where it's all dark. And then when you get the flower coin, it's like a fucking flashbang. It's one of the better ones, honestly, even if it kind of lacks in creativity. At number 37, we have Out My Way Valley. In this one, a giant fucking snowball forms and begins steamrolling the level, forcing you to weave around the obstacles lodged into it as you ride it all the way to the end. It's pretty unique. I like how you can see elements of the level you were previously playing on now sticking out of this snowball, including the fucking course flag. It's a little carried by its concept more so than the execution, but I like it nonetheless. At number 36, we have Missile Meg Mayhem. Here you ride an assortment of missiles as they soar above the smog and into the sky. Except whereas before the missiles would fucking die as soon as you stepped on them, they now power through and stay alive as they carry you to victory. This one has a bit of a celebratory vibe to it, with the colorful trails on the missiles and the fireworks going off. And it's not like the game is practically playing itself like in some of the other levels similar to this. There's actual platforming you have to do, which I appreciate. And number 35 is another uncharted area, Swayin Ruins. So the effect is pretty simple in this one. The floor just becomes super slippery. And I think this is the perfect level for such an effect, considering how the platforms are swaying all over the place. However, it's pretty short-lived. I feel like this effect could have been utilized in a more interesting fashion than this. Like, they could have done so much more. At number 34, we have Cruisin' with Lincoln Lifts. This one features a Lakitu polycule in the background that throws a bunch of goodies your way while you try to collect some flower coins. I like how the Lincoln Lifts, as they're referred to, that you've been riding on the entire level thus far gets super thick. That's kind of silly. There's nothing insane going on here, but it's a fun concept that's executed well, which I can appreciate. At number 33, we have Nosher Lair. Throughout this level, you come across these little Pac-Man looking motherfuckers called Noshers that eat everything in their path. It's pretty easy managing them when there's just like a few, so naturally this flower heaps an entire swarm of them on your ass, and they consume the entire level in their wake as they trail behind you. And they can be pretty quick. The only defense you really have are the POW blocks, which temporarily immobilize them. It can get pretty intense, especially if they reach the point where they're covering like 3/4 of your screen. And number 32 is Knucklefest Bowser's Blazing Beats. This is the last musical number of the mainline levels, and I'd say it's one of the best. It actually feels somewhat challenging compared to most of the other musical Wonder Flowers, and I like how it kind of hypes you up right before the final showdown. At number 31, there's Muncher Fields. Once you get this Wonder Flower, everything goes silhouette mode, and some of the previously static platforms come to life. Literally, they grow eyes and everything, and whichever direction they move depends on your position. So you have to position yourself on the platform in a way that moves you forward. And of course, there's obstacles to dodge and whatnot. I like how halfway through it plays with the perspective a little bit by suddenly throwing you into the background of the level. It's perhaps not the craziest flower, but it's creative enough to work for me. At number 30, we have Armad's on the Roll. This Wonder Flower temporarily speeds up the gameplay until you reach the Wonder Seed. And by that, I mean it literally feels like someone is hitting fast forward on the game as you're playing it. Like, this is not edited footage. It's a simple change, but it has a profound impact on how the game plays. The way Mario controls here almost feels like an entirely different game. It's another straightforward concept that's executed very well. I also think the desert setting works perfectly for this flower. It's as if Mario is experiencing heat stroke and going fucking delirious. At number 29, we have Valley Full of Snoodles. This is the inverse of the previous one in that the gameplay slows down here. It's like last level Mario snorted too much coke, and so in this level he's popped a benzo to counteract it, but he took too much and now he's crashing. My comments about the previous Wonder Flower are more or less applicable here. Altering the game's speed in this manner really shakes up how it controls. I rank it a tad higher because I think the new enemies featured here, the Snoodles, are a great match for this flower. Their sporadic movement is easy to manage at a normal speed, but not so much when things are slowed down like this, and I find that dichotomy interesting. At number 28, we have Sun-Baked Desert Palace. So not only does the gameplay slow down in this one, but it speeds up too, switching back and forth between either tempo every like 8 seconds or so. It's the best of both worlds, so naturally it ranks higher than the both of them. One little thing I like about this flower is how it impacts item boxes, because based on the speed, you either get to basically choose whichever item you want, or you just have no fucking idea what you're getting, and I think that's kind of funny. At number 27, we have Maw Maw Mouthful. So this level opens up with these tadpole looking motherfuckers that prey on the Goombas. Yeah, this level is a straight fucking vorfest. And it's kind of whatever, because I mean, it's not like they're much of a threat to you, just the Goombas. That is, until this flower turns you into a fucking Goomba, and then suddenly it's a stealth game where you have to waddle your ass all the way to the seed while also platforming with these tiny ass Goomba footies. I fucking love this one. It's so silly and really throws you for a loop the first time around. It'd be a lot higher if there wasn't another flower that took this concept further. At number 26 and 25 respectively, we have Fluff Puff Peaks Palace and Sproins in the Twilight Forest. These two Wonder Flowers perform height lengthening surgery on Mario and turn him into this long, lanky, shadowy version of himself. I like this transformation. Sure, it's pretty clunky, which I mean, that's the whole challenge, but it's so wacky and different in a way that's so fitting for this game's style. I'm discussing both of them together due to their similarity, and it's kind of hard to say which one I like more. The transformation better matches the setting of the Twilight Forest in the former level, but I gotta rank the latter level, Fluff Puff Peaks Palace, god that's a mouthful, I gotta rank that one higher as I find it more engaging in terms of gameplay. It's constantly throwing obstacles your way, and it really makes you appreciate Mario's normal height. At number 24 is Where the Roombas Rule. This is the first Wonder Flower centered around the Spike Ball transformation, and it's a good transformation. It's fun rolling all throughout the level, knocking over everything in your path like a bowling ball. But this isn't the only Wonder Flower featuring this transformation. The other one does the concept more justice in my opinion, which naturally knocks this one down a bit. But it's still good, it's still fun, I like it. At number 23 is Robert Cove. So here you're playing on a pretty standard water level, right? That is until you get this Wonder Flower and then suddenly the water in the air above flip around so that the water is above you now. It changes up the level in such a weird and interesting way. I like how you can see the Cheep Cheeps flopping around being left with no water. It's a little carried by its concept, I suppose, but it represents the exact kind of weirdness and wackiness that I would want out of these Wonder Flowers. And number 22 is Jewel Block Cave. So this level features these conchs that function almost like thwomps and that they'll try to crush Mario. Except unlike the stationary thwomps, these things will swerve on over to your location upon detecting you. So this flower takes one of those little guys and makes them fucking huge. The only thing saving you from being crushed are these rocks. But with every attempt to crush down on you, it destroys more of those rocks, getting closer and closer. And the only way to avoid it is to use the drill power-up to maneuver around the crystals and reach the bottom where the seed is before the big boy destroys everything in its path and crushes your ass. It's one of the more unique flowers for sure. I like how it utilizes the drill power-up in a compelling way, like it's genuinely useful. At number 21 and 20 respectively, we have the Midway Trial Hop to It and the Sharp Trial Launch to Victory. In these two Wonder Flowers, you actually become a Hoppy Cat, and this is a great transformation. They all pretty much are, if you haven't fucking noticed at this point. Soaring through the skies and cutting through enemies in your trajectory like a knife through butter is exhilarating. The two of these Wonder Flowers are very similar, which is why I'm discussing them together, but I would say that the second one, the Sharp Trial Launch to Victory, edges out its predecessor. The platforming is a little more engaging. You got these gold blocks you can smash through, and these pipes you can kind of get lodged in. It's interesting. At number 19, we have Bull Rush Express. This one is a spiritual successor to Bull Rush Coming Through, if you remember that one from earlier. The concept is identical in that you ride a stampede of bull rushes through the sky, except this time it's much more engaging gameplay-wise. You actually have obstacles you have to dodge. There's a room for error, and I like how you can try to be a hotshot by getting all of these P coins, but at the same time it's totally optional. At number 18, we have Deep Magma Bog Palace. This is the one and only Wonder Flower to feature the slime transformation outside of the fungi mines, which was kind of shocking to see given that the slime is clearly better tailored to a mucky setting like that, rather than the dry and fiery Deep Magma Bog. Regardless, I'm not complaining. I like how the way you interact with these fossils that you've utilized repeatedly up to this point changes quite a bit since you're now sticking to the fossil as it moves. The main aspect holding this one back is its brevity. I feel like they could have pushed the limits a lot more on how these two mechanics can mesh together. At number 17, we have an uncharted area, Wubba Ruins. So this is the first flower in Fungi Mines to turn you into this Luigi's Mansion looking ass slime ball. And in my humble opinion, this is a cool ass transformation. You can stick to the walls like a fucking insect, and you can now squeeze through all these little crevices. And these weird slime blocks that were kind of a pain in the ass to move through previously, you can now just slide right through them. It's smooth. Cool ass transformation, very much deserving of this spot. At number 16, we have Fungi Mines Special Dangerous Donut Ride. This is the last skydiving Wonder Flower, and probably the best one. It's also the most difficult. This is one of the very few Wonder Flowers where it was actually kind of fucking annoying because the path downwards gets very narrow and you can't touch the walls because there are no walls most of the time. It's just fucking poison. And then you got these annoying little fucks that just come flying in, and if you're too high up or too low down, you don't have time to dodge them. But maybe I just fucking suck. I don't know. Regardless, I find the challenge enjoyable here, hence why it ranks so high. At number 15, we have Fluff Puff Peak Special, Climb to the Beat. So remember the Wonder Flower in Jump, Jump, Jump we discussed a hot minute ago? Well, this is the sequel flower that I spoke of back then. Same exact concept. You jump from platform to platform as they appear and disappear in accordance with the pacing of the beat. What I appreciate more about this one is how it utilizes more movement patterns. You go from jumping to wall jumping to sprinting, and it's kind of unpredictable. At number 14, we have Pipe Rock Plateau Special, Bounce, Bounce, Bounce. A lot of special levels back to back. The Hoppos return in this one, which I like since there's a lot of potential to squeeze out of these big old semi-aquatic circles. And squeeze this Wonder Flower does. You must use the Hoppos to make your way across these stretches of spikes. And you have to be careful with your jumping because if you do it at the wrong angle, you'll accidentally send the Hoppo flying in the opposite direction, which is pretty much a death sentence for you. It's a little on the short side, but it utilizes the Hoppo's potential in such a fun and challenging way. At number 13, we have Up and Down with Puffy Lifts. So in this one, you pretty much play is the level, which is pretty fucking wild. I find it fascinating how the way you interact with these spike balls in this form is entirely different. You can kinda just crush them without any harm coming upon you, unless they're on top of you, in which case your length will slowly dwindle until you just disappear and die. It's a very creative and compelling transformation. I only wish they featured this one more in future Wonder Flowers and pushed the concept further. At number 12, we have Light Switch Mansion. This one features the return of King Boo, who chases you down this hallway as this spooky little musical number plays out. There's not much for me to elaborate on, honestly. It's unique, it's cute, it's memorable. I love it. At number 11, we have Dragon Boneyard. Throughout the level, you encounter a lot of these circular fossils that you use to make your way over all of this lava. This flower takes one of these dragon fossils and revives it, bringing it back to its former glory. And so you ride this dragon through the skies, past the flagpole and all the way to the Wonder Seed. And it's not a smooth ride either. The dragon is constantly weaving all over the place and even dips into some lava at one point, thus forcing you to stay on your toes. This may not be the best overall Wonder Flower, but it just might be the best one in terms of pure spectacle. At number 10 and 9 respectively, we have Condarts Away and Rargs in the Ruins. These two Wonder Flowers completely switch up the perspective from the usual 2D to more of a top-down kind of thing, and they accomplish this by having Mario walk on the background of the level, which is truly fascinating. I think this change shakes things up in such an interesting way, because the game plays entirely differently from this perspective. For instance, you can't jump, and that makes maneuvering around the new enemies that these levels introduce so much more of a challenge. These levels are pretty similar in quality, hence why I rank them right next to each other. But I would say Rarg in the Ruins edges out Condarts Away due to the introduction of these blocks that only appear when you're next to them. I like that these blocks sprinkle in a little spontaneity. At number 8, we have Sun-Baked Desert Special, Pole Block Allure. So the main concept of this Wonder Flower is a repeat of an older one, if you may remember. These pole blocks go fucking crazy and you have to weave through them like a bunch of monkey bars. I would consider this one far superior to the other one though. It's much longer for one, it's much more challenging, and there's more variety within the level itself. They use a lot of different enemies, for instance, all of which being from the Sun-Baked Desert, of course, given that this level is basically a remix of concepts introduced in that world. But yeah, not much left to say. It's just a fun and engaging Wonder Flower. At number 7, we have Evade the Seeker Bullet Bills. In this one, you become a pirate, arg, and every pirate needs a pirate ship, of course, so you board this shoddy little boat and set sail. And what's cool is that you have this cannon for you to vanquish your enemies and obstacles with. You just gotta jump on it and you can blow away everything in your path, including these weird nipple looking things. This is a great concept, there's a lot of spectacle, and there's clearly a good amount of effort and inspiration behind it. Love it! At number 6, we have Shining Falls Special Triple Threat Deluge. The top-down perspective returns in this one. Yep, you're walking on the level's background again, which I find just as fascinating this time as I did the previous 2 times. And not just that, the Lakitu Polycule returns as well, except I guess Mario got voted out of the Polycule or some shit because instead of throwing little treats your way, they're throwing big fucking spike balls that murder you. I find it interesting how dodging spike balls in this perspective feels entirely different than it does in the normal 2D perspective. You have to kind of just walk around them because you can't jump, if you recall. all. Simultaneously, there are obstacles you encounter that can only be destroyed by the spike balls, and so it's like a love-hate relationship. Like, you're trying to murder me, but I also need you in order to progress. It's wacky and it's challenging in all the right ways. And number 5, we have a final uncharted area, Poison Ruins. This is the second flower featuring the slime transformation and the fungi mines, and I find it funny how you can just completely miss this one, and if you do, you have to replay the entire fucking level just to find out its hiding spot is right here in this slime block. Everything I've said about this slime transformation previously is also applicable here, of course. What sets this one apart is the level design. It's much more intricate than in prior slime ball flowers, featuring these blocks and circles that you stick to, and they move all over the place. And I love the ending, it feels so grand. And number 4, we have High Voltage Gauntlet. And in this one, you become Metal fucking Mario, complete with the theme and everything. But what's really cool is that it's not just nostalgia bait, okay? They didn't just say, oh, throw in Metal Mario, the fucking soy boys will love it. Nah, it's actually integrated meaningfully into the level, since it now allows you to run into the electricity that previously hurt you. And when you do so, it lights up your surroundings, which you kinda need because otherwise they're gonna be platforming in pitch black, which isn't a great time. I also like how it's not just a visual reskin. Mario sounds and controls differently in this mode, as if he really did become metal. It's such a fucking awesome flower, I love it. And number 3, we have Deep Magma Bog Special, Solar Roller. This is the second level featuring this spike ball transformation, and it fucking rocks. They bring back these timed platforms from previous levels where they appear after hitting a block and then disappear after an allotted amount of time. And I think it meshes super well with this transformation. It adds a lot of urgency, like you can't just dilly-daddle, you gotta go, go, go. And then it culminates in you rolling off the backs of these dragons, which is just awesome. Such an amazing wonder flower. And number 2, we have Petal Isle Special, Way of the Goomba. So you once again turn into a Goomba, and honestly, this one makes the previous Goomba Wonderflower feel like an appetizer by comparison, because you have a whole ass gauntlet here. And there's somewhat of an ironic factor to it, because all of this shit would be a piece of cake with normal Mario. Like, oh, you gotta get past my 2 thwomps, wow, what a nightmare. Except now that you're his mortal enemy, it actually fucking is. Goombas have it so fucking hard. But yeah, whereas a lot of other Wonderflowers feel like they're just scratching the surface of the concepts they introduce, this one actually feels like it's trying to push the Goomba transformation to its limits, which I really appreciate. It's so fun, so different, so memorable. It absolutely deserves this spot in my view. And so we have number 1, the best Wonderflower in Super Mario Wonder. Remember the Seinen Piranha Plant Wonderflower? It ranked pretty low, if you may recall. While being the second ever Wonderflower, you were merely experiencing it in its infancy. It's been maturing and training over the entire duration of the game and got jacked up on some fucking roids, and now it's back at the very end in the form of the semi-final test, Piranha Plant Reprise. Not only do you have Seinen Piranha Plants of all different sizes, but you have dancing spikes, you have bullet bills that are synchronized with the song, you have these Gambus bouncing all throughout your path here and dancing around at other parts, and then you have this final sprint that's just beautifully executed. There's honestly not much more for me to even say. It's just an amazing Wonderflower, definitely the best musical one, and most certainly my favorite in the game. So there you go, my complete rankings of all Wonderflowers in Super Mario Wonder. Excuse the black screen, I'm just so done with editing at this point. But listen, if you sat through all that yapping and enjoyed it to some extent, then you might as well like and subscribe and all that jazz, right? But otherwise, stay safe, alright? I love you.